Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him that we will help him and his team with their transition, and that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power. While I concede this election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign.
So there we are. I'm Chris Cuomo. Welcome to all the new people joining NewsNation. Our team had the key election calls right and first. And there's a concern in that I want to discuss with you tonight. As you saw, we entered on Vice President Kamala Harris this afternoon, formally conceding the election to Donald Trump in her speech from her alma mater, Howard University in Washington, D.C. She lost. The Democrats lost by a little in a lot of places and races. Why? Because they underperformed. Don't blame Black or Latino men for voting their own pockets and passions. Don't blame women for valuing issues in addition to their reproductive rights. Listening to people say that these men didn't get what Trump represents or that women didn't get the threat really shows that they don't get what happened. They don't get what happened here, and they don't get why. Oh, by the way, I spoke to Professor Alan Lichtman. Okay? He's tired like all of us are, and he's very disappointed, not because of the outcome and who won, but how. And I think it's really disgusting that people are coming at this guy. He's been doing this a long time at a high level. He cares deeply about getting it right. And the 13 keys are not fugazi because he was wrong. And he's going to come on when he decides which key didn't work and why. So here's what we know right now. Trump is the worst and will ruin everything. Has merit to a degree, but it was never going to be enough set against people's self-interest. Harris even underperformed President Biden. Does that mean Biden would have won? It's an interesting question. Now, I doubt it, because the problem for both was the same, as it was for all Democrats in this cycle. The things that matter to us are more expensive than they were 4 years ago, and that happened on your watch. And. Now we get to the real talk. Maybe it's too soon, because I know people are upset. Actually, on both sides, which is an interesting challenge that I'll get into. But the message for the losing side is going to be tougher to hear unless what you actually want is to be what the country needs and what the Democratic Party is at its best. People are too quick to go to the voters. Let's talk about who and how much. And listen, they were only reacting to what the people in power and the media put on them. The division is largely manufactured in this country. It is for effect, and it had an effect. And a lot of media were involved too, and you saw the proof of that in how they reacted or refused to act early this morning. Here's the truth. NewsNation was first almost across the board for two reasons. Decision Desk HQ did their homework. Their models were accurate. But there are other outfits that saw what we were seeing. NewsNation called it first for a very simple but important reason. We had no preference in the outcome. Others clearly did. Nothing wrong with waiting to be accurate. I've been doing this a long time. I'm never in a rush to be first when it comes to calling races. There's no real benefit to it. But we saw something else on our screens. They didn't want Trump to win. And that's a problem. And I say this to you as someone who will tell you and has told you many times what most, maybe no other in my position, does. I have had personal beef with former and future President Trump. And I don't think there are many who have criticized him more profoundly. And if the left is right and he goes on a jihad against enemies, I may be high on the list. But I say, let it come, because I don't confuse my analysis of him with the people who vote for him, because I get their concerns. People who vote for Trump, now some are cultish fans, and bravo to him, by the way, for that seduction, because that's part of politics. But most are more concerned about problems that matter more to them for their families and their financial and physical well-being than Trump's obvious flaws. Do you get that? What Trump offers in terms of what he is against, our systems of government, our culture, that matters more to people than what they are against in his own behavior. They don't talk or act or often think as Trump does. But he has successfully sold himself as the guy for the job. He is against who and what they are against. And the Democrats and the media need to get that. And they need to get that you are not racist or even wrong if you vote for Trump. Yes, he practices deception, demagoguery. He exaggerates threats. He plays on us and them. But the other side was operating under mass delusion because they know the job is to offer better, and the Democrats did not. They really thought that Trump is a bad person, trumps anything in anyone's life. There are many who think being censored for being against what kids are taught in school or allowed in terms of identity, or hyper prosecutions, or even an apparent interest in allowing a porous border. And yes, all of these are seen as an extension of wokeism. What is that? Do they even know what that is? Here's what they think it is: radical liberalism that empowers the few over the many. Too many feel opinions are punished. And that is powerful. That is part of what the left and many in the media too easily condemned and colored as prejudice. And that's why you lost. America is fundamentally about protecting the little guy. It is how we started. But keeping the many from infringing on the rights of the few, which is noble, is not what the election was about. It was having the few control the interests of the many. Making life better for illegal entrants than legal residents is a problem. DEI that puts prominence on type over talent is a problem. Punishing speech that questions or refuses to conform is a problem. Allowing attacks on Jews that would never be tolerated with any other minority is a problem. The left has birthed an entire cottage industry of podcasts for people who feed these frustrations. So while I respect the concern, and I know what it's like to be in pain after a loss in a campaign, as a voter, as someone who has lost in public, I get that there is fear and there is pain and even panic, but I know the way through. Two questions. These are the two toughest questions to confront when it comes to change. So what, and now what? We know what happened last night. Parsing the numbers is masturbatory and a distraction to a certain extent from the question we don't want to deal with. Why? Why? Candidates matter. Harris wasn't a great one, but it was more than she could control on her own. Race, gender, yeah, it plays into it, explicitly or implicitly in America. But Bernie Sanders was right that the Democratic Party traded constantly talking about being for working families and how? For being against Trump. Trump sucks, has a lot of appeal, but not as much as people's own interests, economically and in terms of feeling safe. And yes, seen. Especially when you tell them that what they think matters makes them the problem. When all they want is to be seen and not judged. Sound woke? Well, ironically, the Democrats didn't do what they want done by others. In politics, if you tell people they are wrong to feel the way they feel, you lose. If you tell people they are wrong to feel the way they feel, you lose. You have to meet the majority where they are on what matters. The key is to give ideas that change feelings. So we can see why this happened, and now the only question is, what are you going to do about it? Democrats get a little bit of a break as the out party, even if they win the House. And they have to decide what they are for, not just who and what they are against. Trump has a much tougher task. Now, I don't mention his party because I believe they are patsies. And I don't want to be derisive. I'm just saying I haven't seen them ever stand against him. Winning a grievance election is the easy part. And I give him credit for what he has overcome personally and politically. Few could. But I see that as much more about the movement that propelled him. And now the hard part is satisfying them. We are not a wall or a tax cut away from a secure border or economic improvement for the working man and woman. Policy matters. Posture as president matters even more. Trump struggled to say the perfunctory things about unity and moving forward together, because that's not what he's about. And the people who elected him want things disrupted and taken down, not collaboration. And yet, that is the key to progress. Can Trump convince a majority to move toward one another's ideas and interests as well as he made them fear and focus on enemies and poison blood? Not easy, but he is now our president. And that presents me with the same question as you. What do I do now? My answer? I give him and his administration a chance. I see fairness as an act of faith in a better future. I will not allow people to come on this show to complain only when they are charged with cooperating to make things better. The election is over, but is the gratuitous division that distracts us from what we all want most? That's up to you and me, and what we demand of them, those in power. The elections are about over. Now we all need to get work. We all need to get work done if we want to see what making America greater than she is should really be about. Hey, thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget, click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.